Okay, our next speaker is Jonas Saul.
Wow, how do I follow all those hope-filled speeches and motivation? Because I had actually planned to talk about something scary. I want to discuss, or should I rewrite and do hope? Okay, I'm going to just go with this. I want to discuss rejection, reviews, criticism. The reason I want to bring it up, and there's a couple of huge reasons, is I have been going to conferences since 2004, and I've met, I'd say, thousands of writers, tens of thousands, and I've also seen them quit. And so maybe there's some hope here. And the thing is, though, rejections and reviews can often stop people, and I'd like to implore you to not stop. So let me tell you a little bit about this. In the past year, this is what has inspired what I wanted to talk to you tonight about. In the past year, I've seen a couple of books, and there may be more, that were pulled prior to publication. Publisher and author pulled them, and they had a publication date. They pulled them because the author had written an honorable tribute to a past event. They thought they got it right, and people trolled them online, Twitter and so on, claiming they didn't get it right, and the books were pulled. To me, that is a book burning of a different sort. And I was moved emotionally in a very negative way about these books being pulled. And look, everyone has their own opinion. It may have been justified. It may not have been. I don't agree myself, and I have a right to my own opinion. And I am sad that they were pulled. It's not even a genre I read, but that's not the point. I just think it's a slippery slope. This room is filled with a bunch of talented authors. You all take 26 letters, and you form hundreds of thousands of words, and it all makes sense. And when people read your work, they are emotionally moved. And I just think that takes a lot of talent. Actually, Jules Renard said, literature is an occupation in which you have to keep proving your talent to people who have none. Often reviewers don't write, and they critique you. You are subjected to it. Every book has a critic, and they will find yours. And you have to have a thick skin in this business. I have met writers even recently who had exposed some of their work, and certain people said to this person, no, writing's not for you, don't do it. And they had quit for a while. I forget the time length. When I was sending out rejection letters, that's what I sent out. When I was sending out query letters and getting my rejections, I had form letters come back in the mail, 2002, 2003, and on several, I'm undaunted, so bear in mind when I say this. On several, I had handwritten notes that I should probably stop from agents out of New York. I've still got some of them. Personally, I get challenged with that. I love that. I'll show you. But that's me, and not a lot of writers are that way. Don't fear the reviewer. You have to bear in mind that writing a book, it's a very personal journey, especially your first one. I really found my first one very personal. They all are, but your first one is very special. You need to find a way to not take all this criticism and rejection and reviews that you will get personally, though. And that is such a distinction. It's so hard to do. Bear in mind, some of the most prolific, richest authors out there. Stephen King, he has 1-star reviews. James Patterson makes, I think the last number I saw was 95 million in Forbes per year. He's got 1-star reviews. In fact, James Patterson, his first book was rejected by 31 publishers. And when it was finally picked up, he won the Best New Novel in America award. In 2010 alone, with just 3 of his titles, he sold 3.5 million copies. But there were 31 publishers who rejected his first book. And that's okay, but you keep going. So there is hope in this message. You keep going. I've got 1-star reviews, but I keep going. Side note, Jonas Saul, thriller author, gave 3 of my titles 1-star reviews. In the review, he claimed he did not like my author name. It was too close to his. So he gave me a 1-star review. I reached out to Amazon and said, "You've got guidelines for reviews. These don't match that. Please remove them." And they did. You can do that. Other than that, bear in mind, people who don't read your genre will often give you 1-star reviews. I heard that through John Locke originally way back in 2011 and 12. And so I started, every time I'd see a 1-star review on any of my books, I would click the name of the person and see what else they've been reviewing and see that they don't read my genre. And he was right. So a lot of 1-star reviews I do get, I trust me, I don't get many, but a lot of the ones I do get, they're often unwarranted. There are some that are valid. There's a couple. But it's not just reviews on Amazon. There's Publishers Weekly. There's Globe and Mail, book reviewers, Instagram reviewers. It's all over. All over the place, all over the map, and you will be reviewed. And I just really implore, have a thick skin. Advice: never respond, ever, to a bad review. There's an author whose husband, some of you may remember, I won't say the author's name, but her husband, I said her, her husband's, it's a husband, so it has to be her, I'm sorry, responded to a bad review. That was right over my head. Responded to a bad review, and it blew up in a negative way all over Twitter. And there was a major protest about that. I've seen other authors on Facebook do that, and people are blocking them. And you really have to watch that you don't respond. I wouldn't even say thank you. You just don't respond, because that could look sarcastic. So when I started, I was watching all the reviews when I first put my books up, because I started independently. I would read them all from Amazon and Kobo and Apple in all the countries I was published. I liked to read them all. And that's a personal thing. I was talking to Jack White, had dinner at his place about a year ago, and we were chatting about reviews, and he says he never reads them anymore, but he also read them in the beginning. I don't read them as much anymore, but I do recommend, and it's a personal thing, but I do recommend you read them in the beginning. 2 reasons. One was I noticed there's people who were reviewing my book 2, The Warning, in the Sarah Roberts series. They were saying that I had gotten some things wrong with the Latter-day Saints Church, because I had written a little bit about religion. And I had done a ton of research on that book. I had watched YouTube videos. There was even an Oprah special about a certain temple thing in Utah, and I think it was at Utah, yeah. And I had done a lot of research, and I thought I'd gotten it right, but I didn't respond to the reviews, and they were bad. They were bad reviews, and I waited, and weeks later, I started seeing readers come on and respond for me, and readers came on and said he got it right, and so I didn't have to touch it. The other reason I recommend you read your reviews is if they are grammar or punctuation related, and everyone's saying I couldn't read anymore. I couldn't get past the page 20. Well, then maybe you need to pull that book and get it properly edited, because presumably you didn't get Aunt Gertrude to do your editing. So the main reason I was reading my reviews is because they're my target audience, and I like to see what they were thinking, what they were saying. I also learned what they liked and what they didn't like through reviews. Many of them were attached to Sarah early, and so I was happy I'd found a character and was able to characterize her well. A lot of reviews come in, though, not liking her boyfriend. But But not because I've made a mistake with him. They just want her to be single. I started to notice that many of them were men. So, anyway, I'm not going to change that. Sarah's going to have a boyfriend for the rest of the books. So don't listen to your reviewers and make changes unless it's grammar related or you feel you need to change it. The important thing is to just get writing, keep doing it, and when you get those rejections and you get those bad reviews, keep going forward. And Rand once said, the question isn't who is going to let me, it's who's going to try and stop me. So don't reject yourself. Send out those query letters. Go traditional, go indie, upload to Amazon. Don't let anyone stop you. You might be surprised. You may actually be an amazing author. You may actually be the next bestseller. And you let a rejection stop you. That would be a tragedy. You have to remove all self-doubt. So this is where I'm creeping into the hope part. Shakespeare once said, and I read this quote so many years ago when I was listening to Tony Robbins tapes back in '93, and I saw this quote from Shakespeare, and he said, "Our doubts are our traitors, and they make us lose what we oft might win by fearing to attempt." So I removed self-doubt. I got rid of it. I realized that I would be a best-selling author. It might sound cocky, but I just said that's what I'm going to do, and I won't have any doubt about it. And I've been writing a long time, and I kept going. The truth is I wasn't a very good writer in the beginning. In fact, looking back, I feel I was pretty bad. My first book isn't published, and my second one went through many years of edits, from multiple developmental edits. And it takes a while, but you have to commit to submit. You have to commit to submit your work somewhere, somehow, in some way, and keep getting it out there. But hone your craft, work on it, study the business. And I always recommend just join a writer's group of some sort, a critique group, so that you can get critiqued in a comfortable environment, and you can learn from that, and you can build your writing to a place where you reduce the amount of rejections and reviews that are negative that you will get. But if you do publish, you will be reviewed, good and bad. So don't let anyone shame you to stop. Now, years ago I wrote a blog post called "Rejection Letters Are Great." I wanted to take a positive look at rejection letters because I felt it was a numbers game. I felt that the more I received back in the mail, eventually I'd hit one that wanted something. Back in the early 90s, I was selling vacuums for a while, door to door, cold calling. I did it here in Calgary when I lived here. When I first started, it was a very bad job. And we would get in a van. I'll just tell you this side story quickly. We would get in a van with all these vacuums, 4 or 5 of us, and we would drive to a neighborhood. And this was before when you could knock on a door and someone would let you in their house. It may not happen today so well. So we would get out of the van and we would start knocking on doors. And all we were doing, we're offering a free carpet shampoo in your area today. And we would have it, hey, today we're in the area. And, we do the whole salesman pitch. And we would try and get into doors. And what would happen is I started to notice after a couple of weeks, it took about 50 houses to get into a door on average. Sometimes better, sometimes worse, but it took about 50. Every 3 doors I got in and did a demonstration of this vacuum, I would sell one. So about 150 doors, I'd make a sale. Some days it was hard to get to 150 doors. The point is, I used to sell a couple of these vacuums a week. And what happened to me eventually was as I would start my day and knock on a door and no one would answer, that's one of the 50. I'd run to the next door. No one would answer. I'd run to the next. The door would open. Hey, we're in the area. Slam. Okay, well, that's 3. And I'd go to the next. And it was a numbers game. All I had to do was get to my 50 doors and I'd probably get in. Rejection letters are the same. Reviews are the same. You're going to get a lot more positive reviews than you will negative. Rejection letters, I have hundreds. I didn't end up getting an agent through query process. I just had too many rejections. But I have an agent. It's a numbers game. You just got to keep going. You have to commit to submit. Aristotle once said, and I love this one, there's only one way to avoid criticism. Do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. And who wants that? The word no, it just stands for next opportunity. Walt Disney's credo, think, believe, dream, dare. Well, we're here to dare you to dream. In the last bit here, as I sum it up, I wanted to say something from Einstein. He said the true sign of intelligence is not knowledge. It's imagination. So go forth and imagine your stories and do well. And when you make it, I feel it's your responsibility to send the elevator back down and give back. Thank you.